Hello, my dear students. Myself, Sunali Devne, Assistant Professor at Nanvilas College of Pharmacy, Pune. So, I hope you all are safe at your home. So, just enjoy this video lecture on solubility of drug. And basically, in this video lecture, we are going to focus on the introduction of the solubility of drug. In that, basically the solubility expression and the solute solvent interaction. So just start with this video lecture. Start with this learning objective of this video lecture. So after the completion of this video lecture, you will be able to understand the different types of solubility, then understand what is Bisius classification of drug, then how to use the different solubility expression, and finally what is the solute solvent interaction and how this the solute is interact with solvent and forms the solution. So these are the learning objective of this video lecture. Before moving to the main content of this video lecture, we are going to discuss about the importance of solubility in pharma industry. So we know that the majority of the new drugs, near about 40% of the new drugs are basically hydrophobic in nature. So due to the hydrophobicity of that drug are poorly soluble in a water. So the drug which soluble in water, that drug only shows the maximum pharmacological effect on a body. Hence, we try to increase the solubility of such drug by using a different solubility enhancement technique. So this is the importance of solubility, means the basic importance is the only water soluble drug gives the maximum pharmacological effect, and for the absorption of a drug the water solubility is very important. Start with the definition of the solubility, and this solubility is defined as a concentration of a solute that dissolve in a given solvent at room temperature and it forms a homogeneous solution. So it is a quantitative definition. Why it is quantitative? Because here we know that what is the amount of the solute or what is the concentration of solute that is going to dissolve in a solvent and forms a homogeneous solution. In the definition, the room temperature is important, or at a particular temperature is important, because as we change the temperature, then solubility is also changes. Next, the solubility is also defined as it is the spontaneous interaction of two or more substance to form a homogeneous solution, and this is a qualitative way. Okay, so spontaneous means there is the sudden interaction between the solute and solvent and ultimately it forms a homogeneous solution. So this is known as a solubility. So here we know that this is the solvent. The solvent is the major component of the formulation, and second one is the solute. This solute is present in a small concentration. Okay, so this solute is going to dissolve in a solvent. So just like this, the solute is going to dissolve in solvent and it form a solution. So basically this solubility is of a three types: unbuffered solubility, buffered or apparent solubility, and the intrinsic solubility. So what is the meaning of this unbuffered solubility? Means it is the solubility of a compound in a water at the terminal pH of a solution. So it is known as a unbuffered solubility. Next is the buffered solubility or apparent solubility. It is the solubility of a compound at a particular pH. Okay, because the as the pH is changes, then solubility is also changes. And last one is the intrinsic solubility. It is the solubility of a ionizable compound in its neutral form. Okay, so this is known as a intrinsic solubility. Then we will discuss about the solution. So this solution is the homogeneous system in which the solute is completely dissolved in a solvent and that solute is present in the molecular level. So this is known as a solution. So the molecular level means that solute is present in a very small size under the electron. When we see under the electron microscope also, that solute is not seen. Okay, hence it is a molecular level. The size of that solute is very small. Next one is the types of solubility, sorry, solution. This solution is of a two types, dilute and concentrated, and second one is the ideal and the non-ideal solution. So we know that what is the meaning of dilute and the concentrated. So this dilute means in the solvent the very less amount of solute is going to dissolve, that is known as a dilute solution, whereas in concentrated solution the large amount of the solute is going to dissolve in a solvent, and that solution is known as a concentrated solution. Next one is the ideal and non-ideal solution. So basically these ideal and non-ideal solutions are the solution which obeys the Raoult's law is known as a ideal solution, and which does not obey the Raoult's law, it is known as a non-ideal solution. Again, there are some properties of this ideal and non-ideal solution. In this ideal solution, there is the only change in the dilution property, and the intermolecular forces between the solute-solute particles, solvent-solvent particles, and the solute-solvent particle are equal, whereas in non-ideal solution, the all the intermolecular forces which is present between the solute-solute, solvent-solvent, and solute-solvent are not equal. So these are the some properties of this ideal and non-ideal solution that will be discussed in the next video in detail. So in the pharma industry, the three types of solubility is very important, and in that first one is the solubility of gas in liquid, and it is given by the Henry's law. So as the what is the Henry's law? The Henry's law is as we increase the pressure on the solution surface, then the solubility of gas is increases at a constant temperature. So basically this is the Henry's law. Next one is the solubility of liquid in liquids, and in that we will discuss about the complete miscibility, partial miscibility, and immiscibility. So just discuss about the complete miscibility, and the example is the hydroalcohol. So in practical also we perform the experiment that the water and the alcohol are miscible into each other at all proportion. Okay, means if we taken the 10 ml of water and 10 ml of alcohol and we just try to mix it up, then it will get a complete miscible solution. Again, if we change the concentration of the hydrogen and the concentration of alcohol, then also it will form a clear solution. So that is the meaning of the complete miscibility. Second example is the aromatic water. Next one is the partial miscibility, and in that the example is the phenol water, nicotine water, ether water, or water triethylamine system, and that all system are well studied by using the phase diagram. So basically we will just see about the phenol water system. So what is the exact meaning of partial miscibility? So this phenol and water are miscible into each other at a particular concentration, and beyond that concentration these phenol and water form a two separate layers. So that is known as a partial miscibility. So when we add this phenol into the water, okay, so if the concentration or the percentage of that phenol in water is less than 11%, then and then only it form a complete miscible solution. But the concentration of the phenol in water is in between the 11% to 63%, then it form a two distinct layer. And after the 63% concentration of phenol, again it form a single phase solution. So it is known as a partial miscibility. Same condition for the nicotine water system, ether water system, etc. Next one is the immiscibility, and the best example of the immiscibility is the emulsion. The emulsion is the water and oil system, and for the formation of emulsion we will use the emulsifying agent to stabilize that emulsion. So basically, if we want to form the W by O emulsion or O by W emulsion, then we use that particular type of the emulsion. So this water is dispersed into the oil in a W by O emulsion, whereas oil is dispersed into the water in a O by W emulsion, like that. So this type of the solution is a completely immiscible solution. Next one is the solubility of solid in liquid, and in that we will discuss about the saturated solution, unsaturated solution. It is also known as a subsaturated solution, and the supersaturated solution. So basically, what is the meaning of this saturated solution? Means it is a solution in which the equilibrium is present. Okay, one equilibrium is present between the dissolved solute and the undissolved solute. Okay, that is known as a saturated solution. Just we will see one example, that if we are going to add 1 gram of the salt into the 10 ml of water, what will happen? That 1 gram of salt is completely dissolved into that water. If we again increase the quantity of that salt, if we are going to add the again 1 gram of the salt in the water, so total salt is the 2 gram. So that 2 gram is again completely dissolved in that 10 ml of a water. If we again add the 1 gram of a salt, then what happen? The small or the very few salt molecule remain or the settle at the bottom. Why they are settle at the bottom? Because the capacity of that solution solvent is fulfilled. Okay, so that solute is not entered into the solvent. It does not dissolve into that solvent, and it forms the saturated solution. So such type of solution is known as a saturated solution. Next one is the unsaturated solution. So the unsaturated solution means the solution in which the concentration of the solute is less than the saturated solution is known as a unsaturated solution. And third one is the supersaturated solution. It is a solution in which the concentration of solute is more than the saturated solution. Okay, but this supersaturated solution is formed under a specific condition, and that specific condition may be the increased temperature, okay, or the pressure. So when we increase the temperature of that system, we already know that as we increase the temperature, so in maximum cases the solubility is also increases. So this saturated solution is converted into the supersaturated solution. Next, we will discuss about the basic difference between the solubility and the dissolution. So my dear students, please don't confuse between this solubility and the dissolution process. So these are the two different process. So we know that what is solubility, what is the definition of this solubility. So this solubility is the concentration of a solute that dissolve in a given solvent at room temperature, and it form a homogeneous solution, that is known as a solubility. Whereas the dissolution is the amount of solid substance that goes into the solution per unit time. Here this per unit time is important. Under the standard condition of temperature and pH is known as the dissolution. Means the dissolution is how much amount of the solute is goes into the solution per unit time at the standard condition of temperature and pH is known as a dissolution. The second difference is the solubility is a static process, whereas the dissolution is a dynamic process. Means in what is the main difference between static and dynamic process? This static means the solute is going to dissolve into the solvent, and when we increase the amount of that solute, finally the saturated solution is formed. But in the case of this dissolution, as the dissolution is happen, the maximum drug which is goes into the solution, that drug is entered into the systemic circulation. So basically, or the sink condition is maintained in this dissolution. So some force is applied to dissolve that solute into the solvent. So this is the dissolution process. Hence here the this process is dynamic. Third difference is the solubility is expressed in mole per kilogram, whereas the dissolution is expressed in mole per second. Next one is this solubility is basically applied on a pure or unaltered drug, whereas the dissolution is applied for the altered drug and the final formulation. Means, just example, this dissolution is applied on the final formulation, that is the dosage form of a drug, whereas the solubility is applied to the pure drug. Just take one example. If we taken the paracetamol pure drug, then on that paracetamol the solubility is applied. But when we convert this paracetamol into the dosage form just by using the paracetamol and other excipient, then on that dosage form the dissolution process is applied. So this is the main difference between solubility and dissolution. Now just discuss the BCS classification system. That BCS classification means the biopharmaceutical classification system, and in this system the drug is classified on the basis of a solubility and permeability. So in this BCS classification the drug is classified into the four category. So what are these four category? Just see one by one. Class 1 is the this BCS class 1 have the high solubility and the high permeability, whereas class 2 drug have the low solubility and high permeability. Class 3 drug have the high solubility and low permeability, and class 4 drug have the low solubility and low permeability. So this class 1 and class 4, these are exactly opposite to each other. In class 1 the solubility and permeability both things are high. Means drug which shows the high solubility and high permeability, that are undergo the class 1, whereas drug which shows the low solubility and low permeability, that falls under the class 4. Whereas this class 2 and class 3, these are again opposite to each other. In class 2, the solubility is low and the permeability is high, whereas in class 3, the solubility is high and the permeability is low. So what is the exact meaning of this high solubility and low permeability in BCS classification? So just see, the high solubility means the highest marketed dose strength that is soluble in 250 ml of water over the pH range of 1 to 7.5 at 37 degrees Celsius. If consider the drug, and that drug have the highest marketed strength dose is the 1000 milligram. Okay, so 1 gram is the highest marketed dose, and if that dose or drug is dissolved in 250 ml of water, then we can call that drug that drug have the high solubility. Whereas in case of the high permeability, at least 90% of the administered drug is goes into the systemic circulation. So we call it as a high permeable drug. Suppose we taken one drug, okay, and that drug 100% drug we taken. So at least 90% of that drug must be goes into the systemic circulation. Then and then only we can call it as a high permeable drug. So like this, all this classification is completed. Now we will discuss about the solubility expression. So how the solubility is expressed in different terms, that will be discussed here. So according to the USP, that is the United States Pharmacopoeia, and the British Pharmacopoeia, the solubility is expressed as the part of a solvent required to dissolve one part of a solute. Okay, so like this classification is done in a USP and BP. Okay, so just see, here is the descriptive terms and here is the relative amount of solvent to dissolve one part of a solute. So how much part of a solvent is required to dissolve one part of a solute is taken here. Okay, so if the drug is very soluble, what it means, that means the one part of a solute is dissolved in less than one part of a solvent, so it is known as a very soluble. Next one is freely soluble, means the one part of a solute is dissolved in 1 to 10 part of a solvent, so it is known as a freely soluble. Next one is the soluble, that means the one part of a solute is going to dissolve into 10 to 30 part of a solvent. So like this, all the this term is expressed. So finally we just consider this insoluble or practically insoluble. It means that near about more than 10,000 part of a solvent is required to dissolve one part of a solute. That means in practical level that drug is not going to dissolve in that solvent. Hence it is known as a insoluble or practically insoluble. The solubility is also expressed by using these different terms like the molarity, normality, mole fraction, percent by weight, percent by volume, percent weight in volume. So already you all know that the definition of this, all the expression terms. Already all the definition have covered in the last semester. Here we just brush up the things regarding this definition. So what is the exact meaning of this molarity? So it is the moles or the gram molecular weight of a solute that is going to dissolve in a 1 liter of solution, that is known as a molarity. Next one is the molality. Here how much amount of the how much moles of solute is dissolved in a 1000 gram of a solvent, that is known as a molarity. Next one is the normality. In normality, we consider the gram equivalent weight of a solute that is going to dissolve in a 1 liter of solution. That is known as a normality. In normality, we consider gram equivalent weight, whereas in molarity and molality, we consider the molecular weight. Next one is the mole fraction, and this mole fraction is basically the ratio of moles of a solute to the total moles of a solute solvent, is known as a mole fraction. Next one is the percent by weight, means the gram of the solute is going to dissolve in a 100 gram of a solution. So it is known as a percent by weight. Percent means 100. Next one is the percent by volume. So how much ml of a solute is going to dissolve in a 100 ml of solution is known as a percent by weight. And last one is the percent weight in volume. That means the gram of a solute which is going to dissolve in a 100 ml of a solution. That is known as a percent in volume. So this is all about the solubility expression. Here is the reflection spot. So just think on that, how this solute is interact with solvent and forms the solution. So just pause the video and think on that, and in the upcoming slides we will discuss about this question. Here is the answer of this reflection spot, that is how this solute is interact with the solvent and forms the solution. So when the favorable interaction is takes place between the solute and solvent, then what happened, that solute is get dissolved into the solvent and it forms the solution. So this whole system or the whole interaction is basically depend on the free energy change. So this solute solvent interaction have the three steps, and the first step is the detachment of solute from the bulk form. So here consider this is the bulk of a solute, and in this bulk form the all molecules are attached together by a strong intermolecular forces. When we supply some heat or the energy to this system, then what happens, this bond is broken down. Okay, and due to the breakage of this bond, the solute or the a single molecule of the solute is get detached from the bulk of a solvent. So just like this, the solute is detached from the bulk of a solute. So this first step is the endothermic process, means we supply some heat to this process, then and then only the bond is broken down, and this system or this step have the positive enthalpy. The second step is the formation of a vacant site in a solvent. So again, this second step is the endothermic in nature, means we have to provide some heat to this solvent, then and then only the holes is generated in the solvent. Okay, so vacant site is generated in this solvent. So again, these molecules which is present in this solvent are attached together by the strong intermolecular forces, and when we supply some heat to this system, then this bond is broken down, and when the bond is broken down, there is the formation of the vacant site or hole in the solvent. So like this, the hole is formed in the solvent, and this solvent molecule is get detached. So again, this step is the endothermic in nature, and again this step have the positive enthalpy, means heat of this system is increases. The third step is the insertion of a detached solute molecule in a vacant site of a solvent. So here is the solvent in which the vacant site is created, and here is the detached solute which is formed in a first step of a solute solvent interaction. So this third step is a exothermic in nature, means some heat is evolved during this process. So when the heat is evolved, this solute get inserted in the vacant site of a solvent, and it forms the solution. So just see like this solute is embedded or inserted in the vacant site of a solvent, and it forms the solution. So like this, the solute solvent interaction is takes place. So this third step is the exothermic in nature, and due to the exothermic nature of this third step, the enthalpy of the system is decreases. Now we will discuss about the reason behind this solute solvent interaction. So why the solute is interact with the solvent and forms the solution. So here are the reasons behind that. First one is the polar molecule, second one is the non-polar molecule, and third one is the semi-polar molecule. So just discuss what are the properties of this polar, non-polar and semi-polar molecule. So polar molecule have the dipole moment. Okay, so what is the meaning of dipole moment? Suppose this is the molecule. So in this molecule, there is the formation of a uh, there is the formation of two pole, that is the positive pole and the negative pole. Hence, it is known as a dipole molecule. Di means two. There is the formation of two pole, positive and negative. Hence, this molecule have the dipole moment. Next one is the polar molecule have the high dielectric constant. What is the meaning of dielectric constant? It is the ability of a solvent to hold the separated charge. Okay, this is the separated charge. Positive charge is separated and negative charge is separated. So the ability of that solvent to hold this separated charge is known as a dielectric constant, and the molecule which shows the dipole moment, that molecule also shows the dielectric constant. Next one is the polar molecules break down the covalent bond and forms the solute solvent interaction, whereas this polar molecule forms the new hydrogen bond, and again there is the formation of the solute solvent interaction. So these are the main four basic reason behind these polar molecules. Next one is the non-polar molecules, and all the properties of these non-polar molecules are exactly opposite to the polar one. So these non-polar molecules don't have the dipole moment. Next one is this non-polar molecule again don't have the dielectric constant. No dipole moment, no dielectric constant. Then it don't have the ability to break the covalent bond and form the hydrogen bond. Okay, hence this non-polar molecule is interact by inducing the dipole moment. Okay, so in this non-polar, if the solute is non-polar in nature, then that non-polar solute is going to dissolve in a non-polar solvent just by inducing the dipole moment. Okay, when we apply the external force or the electric field to the non-polar molecule, then some part of the polarity is induced into that non-polar molecule, and by that the non-polar molecule is interact with the non-polar solvent. Next one is the semipolar molecule. This semipolar molecule is neither like the polar molecule and nor like the non-polar molecule. So it acts as an intermediate between this polar and the non-polar molecule. And again, this semipolar molecule interact by inducing the dipole moment. So by discussing this all the polar, non-polar and semipolar molecule, we conclude that the like dissolves like. Means the polar solute, it dissolve in the non-polar solvent. The polar solute is dissolved in a polar solvent. Non-polar solute is going to dissolve in a non-polar solvent, like that. So this is all about the introduction of the solubility of drug, then different definition of the solubility, then solubility expression and the solute solvent interaction. Now just we will discuss some questions here. The first question is, if we add 5 gram of NaCl in 10 ml of water, it will form the saturated solution. So what is the nature of solution when we add 3.8 gram of NaCl into 5 ml of water and heat it? Okay, so the answer of this question is the saturated solution. Next question is, if 1 gram of paracetamol is dissolved in 32 ml of solvent, then it is termed as, okay, this already we see the solubility expression. So how much part of the solvent is required to dissolve one part of a solute? On that basis this question is prepared. So the answer of this question is sparingly soluble. Next one is the polar solute are solvated by the dash dash solvent. So basically we know that like dissolves like, the polar solute is solvated by the polar solvent. And the last question is, if 15,000 parts of a solvent is required to dissolve one part of the nimodipine, then it is, what is the type of that solution, or what is the descriptive terms of that solubility? That is the practically insoluble, because to dissolve one part of the drug, more than 10,000 part of the solvent is required, hence it is the practically insoluble. So thank you my dear students for attending this video lecture. I hope you clear this concept of the solubility and the solubility expression and solute solvent interaction. So just enjoy this video lecture and take care, and stay home, stay safe. Okay, bye bye.